today we have an interview with Daniel Wang from Loopring, and Loopring is a decentralized exchange, and they're not really an exchange. What they're doing is they're creating a protocol for decentralized exchanges to be working on. Currently, they're listed on CoinMarketCap. I believe they got listed in August of 2017. They're ranked about number 51 as of today, with about a $256 million market cap. So they have a pretty good placement there in the top 100. They're on Binance, Bittrex, OKX, and IDEX is kind of their big exchanges that they're on. You can find them there. And so, yeah, we're going to talk with Daniel, and he's the CEO, right? Daniel, you're the CEO of Loopring?
I would say it's founder, but sometimes people call me CEO, but you know, I didn't deny it. Okay.
Okay, good. So he's the founder of Loopring, and so you're not active in the CEO kind of daily role. Is that why you say that?
I do, but because our foundation is a non-profit foundation, so we don't really call them, you know, we don't call it CEO. It's like a business.
Got it.
You gotta take the role of like Vitalik.
Yeah, kind of.
Just kind of like a more guidance.
Yeah, and I do like a daily business operations, you know, as well.
Okay, so that makes sense because of the governance model that Loopring has, and being a nonprofit, you don't really call yourself CEO of a corporation, so you're more like a founder. But so we get that. Now, doing just some basic stuff, when I looked on your website and whatnot, it looks like you have quite a bit of experience working in the tech space, at least, right? You worked with Google and PayPal and some stuff like that.
Yeah, I used to work for Google as an engineer on their search engine backend and their ads platforms. I also worked for JD.com, which is the second largest e-commerce company in China, as their engineering director. I worked on their search engine recommendation system and ads platform as well. I didn't work for PayPal. Our CMO, Jay, he used to work for PayPal.
Oh, okay. I have a question, and we'll get into China later, but you're in China, is that correct?
Right now, I'm in New York City. I used to live in China, and I moved to New York City like 3 or 4 months ago because I want to talk about my project to a broader audience in the US. I want to make some connections as well. So I'm here in New York City.
Okay, gotcha.
So what was your kind of aha moment for getting started with Loopring?
You know,
what inspired it?
I used to have a centralized exchange back in 2014. I got out of business because of the unfriendly regulation in China back in 2014, 2015 there. I realized a lot of problems that centralized exchange have. And one day, I think somewhere in May, back in 2017, I realized, you know, maybe we can just use blockchain to solve those trading problems. You know, we all believe that blockchain is secure. You know, we hold our tokens, nobody can steal them. But why do we have to use centralized exchange to trade our cryptocurrencies? You know, I haven't thought about this, you know, since I have my own centralized exchange, because, you know, I was busy with, you know, setting up the user interface and make the trading as fast as possible. I was quite involved in the development of our previous exchange. So I didn't really jump out of the previous business model and think about how to do it differently. So at that day, you know, Jay talked to me. He said, hey, you know, there are a lot of ICOs going on. You know, do you have ideas that we can do ICO? Maybe, you know, you have written like 2 white papers. Oh, I was working for a internet insurance company called Zhong'an Technology, Zhong'an Insurance in Shanghai, China. So Jay worked for me. So that day he said, hey, you have already written like 2 white papers internally for that company. So why do you, you know, just write another one for yourself, and we can just come out and do a ICO. I said, cool. I think what kind of ICO should we do? We used to have this exchange. Maybe we can use blockchain technology to redo the exchange. So that day I was starting to think about Loopring, and then I also researched. I read a lot of white papers about the exchange, decentralized exchange. Yeah, so back in 2017, I had that idea.
I noticed on the white paper for Loopring, you specifically write, and you wrote the white paper, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that it pointed out like a philosophical dilemma between centralized exchanges and cryptocurrencies. And so for those of you guys watching that don't really understand that, like Bitcoin is meant to be decentralized money without a central administrator that could interfere with that transaction. But every time you put your money into an exchange, that's a centralized player that could then compromise that transaction. So the philosophical dilemma is that we have decentralized money, but then rely on a central administrator. And so by having a decentralized exchange, like what Loopring's trying to do, then we don't have the dilemma, and we don't have the security risk, the transparency risk, or the liquidity risk that we would have in a traditional exchange.
Yeah, that's very correct.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I love decentralized exchanges. I know Jacob does. We believe they're a very, very important piece to the entire, cryptocurrency space. However, there are quite a few decentralized exchanges out there, and they all kind of have their problems. I mean, there's definitely a lack of liquidity, poor user interfaces. I mean, is that what you see? Is that where you're trying to kind of attack this problem?
Yes, I think we share the same challenges. I think the biggest challenge, I think, is still user education. A lot of people don't really know how to keep their private keys, keep their wallets. They don't really know what is a allowance in terms of like ERC-20, right? So you have to take a lot of time to educate those people, non-technical people. And the second largest challenge, I think, is still the throughput or the performance of blockchain. Although protocols like Loopring, we don't really manage our orders on chain, but all the settlements are done on chain. So we are still limited by the performance of the current blockchain system. Like Ethereum, they only offer like 15 transactions per second, sorry. So it's not enough. So protocol, I think the design for protocol is cool, but we are limited by the underlying infrastructures. I think the third one is that the liquidity is a small problem. If we get the performance up, if we get the user experience, the education done well, I think people is just going to move they're going to try to use wallets to trade their cryptocurrency instead of deposit their money into any exchange. I think the liquidity problem is going to be solved by getting rid of the previous two issues.
You think transactions per second is the kind of tipping point for decentralized exchanges, especially like Loopring, which uses kind of wallet to wallet trading?
Yeah, it is. So right now, I think there are still people trying to use decentralized exchange to trade, especially those who want to trade anonymously, especially trading between like institutes, between serious traders in different countries. They don't want to trade in, let's say you are in the US, and if I'm in China, if we trade a lot of money, a lot of tokens, we don't really want to trade in either US or China because of the trust issues, right? So I think for serious institutional traders, they still want to try to use DEX instead of centralized exchanges. But for many other like small token holders, I think convenient, being user-friendly is more important than being like absolutely secure, right? So I think in quite some time, I think the decentralized one and centralized exchanges, they are going to just work together to target different users.
So I have so what I'm seeing is for me, like the liquidity mechanism you're saying will kind of solve itself once you get the experience up. What is the ultimate plan for Loopring to acquire customers, to acquire users? Because I think that's the hardest thing, and I talk about that a lot on my show is customer acquisition. And I think like you said, like your exchange in China you kind of went out of business because of regulations and laws and all that stuff. I think Binance was literally just in like the perfect place at the perfect time, with every other exchange closed doors, and they were just kind of there with open arms. There wasn't anything like spectacular. Now they've done a very good job since the user acquisition, staying open, maintaining servers, customer support, and everything. So they've done fantastic that way. But how do we steal away, or how do you guys take all these customers from these centralized exchanges, especially when you've got places like Korea that are banning anonymous users from trading at all? It's against the law there, and same thing in China. How do you acquire those customers, especially with where we're at with the user experience and the transactions per second?
Yeah, first of all, you said Korea is banning anonymous trading. I think it's banning anonymous trading on top of centralized exchange. So
right, true, yeah.
You have to go through like KYCs. But I don't think policies is going to prevent technologies from evolving into a better product. So there's no way they can prevent a decentralized exchange come into being. And being decentralized means it must be anonymous. There should be no KYC, right? There should be just as easy as send a transaction. It should be just that easy, right? In terms of customer acquisition, I think we are not alone. We are a protocol. We are not going to build a platform to then build up a user base. It's not our goal. We don't want to compete with any wallets that adopt our protocol. So what we want to help them. So it's not us. It's not our goal to attract people to our platform or our wallet.
You're building the tools.
Right.
Yes.
They want to be a protocol for the decentralized exchanges to run on.
Right.
I really want to get into that conversation back into the anonymous and the decentralized and stuff, but I kind of wanted to table that for a minute and just talk kind of about your technology just for a minute, because again, Jacob and I are super interested in decentralized exchanges. We've kind of looked at a bunch, and they each kind of have their own technology. I see you're running on-chain and off-chain transactions, and I think most people are doing that, right? You had talked about that's to speed up, to get around the speed limitations that whatever blockchain you're built on. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm curious about that is by having an offline or off-chain solution, does that somehow centralize the tech? Right now, it's off the blockchain, which is decentralized, and now it's off-chain. Is that centralized, and does that create a point of weakness for hacking or regulators to freeze it or something like that?
Not really, because so ideally, if you as a user you want to submit your orders through any wallet that you like, right? And that order ideally should be broadcast and shared with as many relayers as possible. So those relayers just accumulate different sources of orders and build up their own order book and start mining. By mining, I mean really just matching the orders. So in Loopring, we use a term called ring mining. So sometimes we use miner or mining. So in general, your order should be shared to as many people as possible so that it has a bigger chance to be matched. But your asset is not going or bound to your order. So it means even though your order got lost or your asset is perfectly safe. So it really doesn't matter how those orders are managed off-chain. Your asset is absolutely secure. So what matters is the on-chain settlement. So all the trading rules are encoded into our smart contracts. And no matter who submit the ring or the solution, this protocol smart contract is going to verify that all those solutions are valid, and all the trading parties, they have sufficient balance in their address and then start transfer values. So everything is guaranteed on the blockchain level. So off-chain is just make it easier for you to cancel the order, and make it easy for you to, for any miners to build up their order books in a customizable way. For the protocol, it really doesn't matter how the matching process is done.
Okay. And then the big, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. One thing that I was pretty fascinated with was interoperability. Now, I know you guys have the LRC token. Can you just explain to our viewers a little bit how, I know you're not an interoperability token, but you have like issuance on LRN, NEO, LRQ, LRX, whatever that blockchain is. Can you kind of explain that a little bit, just so they can kind of understand how you're going to have that interoperability between, the NEP5 tokens, the ERC20 or the ERC223? Can you just explain that just a little bit?
Yeah,
Sure.
and in explaining that interoperability, does it also increase liquidity?
Yeah, so Loopring as a protocol is not cross-chain, unfortunately. We want to make it cross-chain, but right now we don't have the solution. We have never said Loopring as of now is a cross-chain protocol. So on Ethereum, FRC is going to be used in two ways. First, it's going to be used as the trading fee, and secondly, it's going to be used as a vehicle of decentralized governance. That's it. But FRC cannot be used on another blockchain like NEO because there's no cross-chain protocol at all. So there's no interoperability as of now. I don't think it's not just us. I think nobody has the perfect solution for.
I've been following it pretty close, trying to figure out who's going to figure it out first.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because let's say you want to make sure if you want to transfer some value from one chain to another, and maybe you want to, either deploy a smart contract on either both chains, and then maybe you have to change the source code of both blockchains, right? So it's really tough. And instead of spend time persuading people to change their code, maybe it's a better way to just implement your own brand new blockchains, right? That's Cosmos they are doing.
So is there going to be kind of like and I haven't read this anywhere, but I'm just kind of, is there going to be an atomic swap feature between LRC to LRN to LRQ? I didn't read that anywhere, but that would make the most sense as far as like not really being cross-chain, agnostic, but more being able to kind of move in and out of blockchains. Is that something that you guys are working on?
No, we're not working on that because I'm really not a big fan of atomic swap, because atomic swap, it works, but it only works interactively, so that if you and me, we reach agreement, and then we can start using that protocol to change some token on this chain with your token on the other chain. But we have to know each other. We have to get in touch with each other. There's no way that we can trade like we can submit order and forget, and there is a third party to match our two orders, right? Okay. So that protocol is not automatic. It's not really matching. It's not matching. It's just interactive. So we don't want to spend time there. I think that protocol works, but it's really, really simple. It doesn't. I don't think it's a solution for the future interoperability.
Okay.
So not working on that, but we are working on something else. So we are actually doing research on like sidechain technologies.
What is it called?
Like sidechain.
Sidechain technologies.
Sidechain.
Like plasma.
Yeah, but it's an entire new ecosystem. My goal is not to, provide interoperability between existing blockchains because it's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
The big problem becomes, in a tokenized world, which I believe we're working towards, we end up with so many tokens, and that's why the dollar works, because the dollar works for everything. If now we have all these tokens for everything, it becomes very difficult, and now we're always going to have to be exchanging. So having that cross-chain interoperability is going to be key. So whoever figures that out, it's going to be a big piece.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think interoperability and scalability are the two key challenges remaining unsolved.
Yeah. Now, another key piece I saw in your technology that I think is different when looking at other protocols like 0x or AirSwap is you have this order matching, right? This order ring where you can combine, mix and match orders, like up to 16 orders. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I wanted to exchange, so basically that breaks apart the traditional pairs, right? Now we don't have to stay within pairs. Those orders can get split up by 16 different people, or how does that work?
It's not that the order is going to be split up. It's that, let's say you want to sell Ether for LRC, our token, and I want to sell, let me say it again. Let me say, I want to sell Ether for LRC. You want to sell LRC for Kyber. And Jacob, he wants to sell Kyber for Ether. If you put those three orders in any current existing exchanges, they are not going to be matched, right? Because there's no counterparty. There's no the other way, the other order to match with any of those orders. But with Loopring, you can put those three orders together. If there exists that the race satisfies with each other, we can just I will just pay you Ether. And I will just pay Jacob Ether. Jacob will just pay you the Kyber. You pay me LRC. That's it, right? So it's a circular way. So it's a more generalized model of the traditional trading pair.
Yeah, the wallet-to-wallet trading is the thing that interests me the most, just because custody of your crypto is probably the thing that brought me to crypto. The 2008 crash. That's how I got into crypto. I'm a huge fan. I've been following almost every privacy coin that exists, even to the smallest market cap, studying the technology. I know you're fascinated with zero knowledge proofs, ZK snarks, and stuff like that. Are you implementing this stuff? I know you guys haven't really started on it too much yet, but is there anything you can kind of talk about anonymity with some of those privacy features?
I'm a big fan of zero knowledge proofs, but Ethereum have a very limited support for ZK snarks. So we did some research, but we don't think it's the time for us to implement any new features based on that. So it's we still rely on Ethereum to provide more like programming level support, so that we can have more our ideas implemented. Right now, not yet.
Okay.
So because you build on Ethereum, Qtum, and Neo blockchains, then you're limited to whatever they have. So in that instance, Ethereum doesn't really support that. So then you can't really implement that.
Right. So the other way to implement such features is to write a lot of code, a lot of Solidity code, but it will take a lot of gas to execute. And it will make it impossible to use for any business who want to make money. So it's not realistic.
Got it. Now, since LRC is just a protocol, like you said earlier, you don't want to be involved in the customer acquisition piece. So you're a protocol that you hope decentralized exchanges will use your protocol. And is that what you call the relayers? The relayers are the exchanges?
The relayers are the backend, but the wallet are also a very important part of the ecosystem. They provide liquidity.
Okay, and they'll be the actual decentralized exchange.
They are the user-facing part, but they don't have to. So basically, we want to decouple the front end with the back end. So as a business, you can run the front end alone and only, and you don't have to run any back end. You can just submit orders to broadcast orders to any known relayers, and then they will just try to ring matching those orders. And as a business, you get 20% of those mining fees automatically transferred to your wallet by the smart contract. And the other 80% is paying to the wallet because, paying to the relayer, because relayer has to pay like Ethereum gas fee. So they need to cover the cost.
So can you get into just your token economics a little bit? I know you said it pays for governance and it pays for trading fees. Can you tell me like how the Ethereum nonprofit foundation currently generates income, currently, can sustain itself, especially during this kind of regulation period as we're trying to kind of figure all this stuff out?
So FRC, so as a user, if you submit an order, you can optionally put some FRC with the order, so that if the order is fulfilled, and proportionally the FRC will be paid to the ring miner, or the ring miner, sorry, the ring miner as a fee, right? And the ring miner take FRC as the income, and they pay Ether as the gas to Ethereum miner. So FRC, if the FRC covers the fee, it's a profit. If it doesn't, it's a loss. So we, as a foundation, we are not involved, or to be more precise, in the future, we are not going to be involved in any trading. So, user pays fee to the miner doesn't have to be us. So we are only going to, the only way we make money is to sell the RRC token we hold, right, as a founding team or founding member. So that's the only way we can personally make some money, and that's it. We don't have any source of income. So ideally, we don't want to even host our own wallet or relayers.
Got it. So this is an off-topic question, but it's one of my favorite questions to ask. And sorry, we're going off topic a little bit. But besides Loopring, what's your favorite cryptocurrency project?
Still Ethereum. I think
still Ethereum.
Yeah, there are a lot of innovative blockchain or consensus database technologies like Nino, like what else? A lot of new stuff like IOTA, right? Hashgraph. But I think blockchain is still the only one proven to be really secure. The other ones are still they need time to prove themselves.
Cool. I think
we cannot live without Ethereum. I think if Ethereum goes, this whole crypto ecosystem is gone. I mean, there's literally nothing left.
Well, and that's saying a lot, seeing as you're also building on Qtum and Neo, which are Ethereum competitors, right?
Yeah.
So they're competitors to Ethereum, and we have ADA and EOS claiming they're going to be competitors, but even you having intimate knowledge of working with Qtum and Neo, you still like Ethereum. So that says a lot.
Yeah.
So I have just another question. So I've spoken I go to a lot of conferences and I speak to a lot of developers and companies and stuff like that. And I met Simon from Storm, and he said one of the hardest things about working on a blockchain project was people fudding about the price of the token. Does that affect you at all? Do you feel pressure to people that like buy LRC and hold LRC hoping that the value goes up? Do you feel that kind of internal pressure or that external pressure from like all these people on social media that are just, they're kind of always talking about these projects?
Yeah, definitely. I used to feel a lot of pressure, but now I think I'm more or less relieved because, I saw this through. For any project, no matter it is solid or it's a scam, unless the price curve is like a straight line, right? Then nobody lose any money. But if it is a curve, there will be people buy high and hold low, and they will be at a loss, right? So I think what we try to do is not to really take care about the market. We need to deliver. So to be honest, I told my team, if we get everything delivered, everything we promised delivered as a good, very high quality code base, even if the price drop a lot, we don't feel sorry about being not qualified for this project, right? We tried everything we can. We deliver what we promised. Maybe it's because the overall the big environment is not just us. But if we cannot deliver what we promised, that's kind of like a scam, right? You are just trying to bluff. You are trying to just layers, right?
Yeah, that's a great approach. I mean, you can only control what you can control, and the people that want to bet against it in the open market, it's kind of on them as long as you're doing what you're doing. But since you bring that up, when I was looking at the roadmap, it looks like you had some stuff kind of happen this month, and maybe something else happened or 2 months ago, and something else happened this month. But has anything been missed? Like I noticed you had like check marks, and some stuff didn't have check marks. There was one about like the smart contract release. Has there been anything missed, or have you been hitting all the roadmap pieces?
I think we are pretty on schedule. So this month we are going to release our web-based wallet software. Actually, it's working. If you check out our loopring.io, it's there working, but the user experience is not very satisfying. I'm still trying to make sure our engineers put a lot of time to optimize the UI. By the end of June, we are going to release our iOS software apps, and in maybe Q3, we are going to release our Android app. In terms of the protocol smart contract development, I think we are way ahead of schedule. We planned, we will upgrade to a couple of more versions this year, but I think we are going to get every feature implemented. Actually, we have already implemented all the features we planned in the last release. What we are trying to do is to do a further optimization. We want to reduce the gas cost. We want to make sure the protocol is going to be compatible with all the future releases. So people, if they want to submit order with an old version, their order are still valid with the newer versions. So that's what we are trying to do. I think we are pretty on schedule in general. The only thing didn't hit my milestone is the website itself. We are trying to redesign our website, but it got delayed a couple of times.
I have one question. Getting back into technology for a minute, we do want to get into a little bit more kind of high-level stuff, but getting back into technology for a minute, I was just curious, with having, as only being a protocol and then having all these, these relayers or the exchanges themselves, like where does the order, but like where does the price matching come from, where the price is? So I see you have in your white paper, you give a couple examples of how like the order ring works, and if I want to sell this for this and they want to sell this for this, we have a deal. But in a traditional exchange, it shows the order book and we know where the prices are, and it'll even tell me like what the last price was or the bid price, etc. So is there something in Loopring? Is that going to be on you as the protocol, the order matcher, or is that going to be on the exchange? Where does that price come from?
I think each layer, they have the control how to determine the current price. So first of all, I would say the matching algorithm really doesn't care about the price. They care about whether your order can match my order. So we don't really look at a third price. We just look at the rate, the exchange rate specified in those two orders. That's it. But in general, if you look at the market, sometimes you want to learn, hey, what's the current or what's the last price? What's the 24-hour high, low, the average? Those kind of pricing information. I think that's what you are referring, right?
Well, I mean, I would want to use an exchange that has a lot of liquidity, and we obviously know about arbitrage. So, you can see a big price difference between exchanges. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're running kind of your own little mini order book, I mean, who knows where that price is going to be? And am I going to be paying way more than I would if I was on another exchange with higher liquidity?
I see. So the standard relay API has the standard relay has the API for you to query the order book. So you can query like top 50 orders from any relayer to make sure you understand the order size, price, and the fees. So it's totally open.
So it sounds like I'd like to know what you believe is the keys to success. I mean, you already said following through with your roadmap, but it sounds like really the success of Loopring as a protocol is going to depend on relayers and the decentralized exchanges themselves, right? I mean, and so you need these relayers to get up and be successful. You need these decentralized exchanges to get up and be successful in order for your protocol to take off. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So if businesses they adopt our technology, they cannot make money, they are not successful, then this protocol is going to be a failure. So the only criteria that a protocol is good, is that all the businesses are performing well.
So I seen like with 0x, I mean, they have a few different relayers up and running. I didn't see anything on your site or anything I could find where you have existing relayers up and running. Is that correct?
Not yet, not yet. We are late. We are late compared to 0x, but we are not worried. I think if you look at the history of internet, there are a lot of protocols before, like TCP/IP, HTTP, right? And it really doesn't matter which protocol got launched into the market several months earlier than others. It really depends on whether the protocol itself is designed solid, is competitive. I think we are quite confident because we have some technologies that our competitors they don't have.
Do you believe this, like you mentioned in the internet space protocols, there were some before, but now we've settled on the TCP and IP. So it was like a winner take all. We ended up with one winner. And do you think that this space will be the same, where like one protocol will come to rule them all, or do you think it will be in an environment where there'll be multiple protocols and people can choose which one they want?
Well, it depends on whether one public blockchain takes all. If so, I think there will be one protocol takes all. Otherwise, if there are multiple blockchains and a lot of blockchain technologies, they have a very fundamental differences, then each blockchain may have one or more dominant protocols.
So which one do you think will succeed?
I have no idea. I'm still optimistic about Ethereum or some new project who really embrace the Ethereum technologies. I'm still a big believer in blockchain instead of other consensus network.
Do you know what Amisego's decentralized exchange protocol is going to be? Because I mean, if you guys landed that partnership, that could be incredibly massive.
That's actually a very good idea. I need to pay them a visit.
Their exchange is going to be incredibly massive. I mean, they're already one of the largest payment processors in Southeast Asia. So just an idea, and they're still working on implementing that. But I don't know if they've picked a protocol. I don't know if they're building their own protocol. I know that they're going to be the first Plasma project. So when you talked about side chains, sister chains, and stuff like that, I know that that's their goal. Mm-hmm. And I think they've been working pretty diligently. And I think Vitalik's have had his hand in a lot of that too. So just kind of offhand, that's what I'm thinking.
I'd like to ask just a couple more like bigger kind of industry type questions. And I was curious, seeing as you're from China, the company's from China, and you talked about, the big regulations that came down in China that caused this and whatnot. And we've seen, last September, China came out and banned it, and then they banned it again. I think they banned it like 6 times in the last 6 months. They're banning mining, supposedly, even all the hash power still is coming from China. What do you, and you're a Chinese company, so how does that work in that environment? What do you see kind of moving forward?
Have you been to China, like cities in Beijing and Shanghai? If you have, you will learn that China as a whole, they enjoy the benefit of mobile payments. They enjoy the sharing bicycles, sharing economy. So internet technology really benefit a lot to our economy. I think the regulators, the government realized that. And like 2 days ago, President Xi, he delivered a speech saying that China is going to be even more opened up to the world. So we are not going to be like 200 years ago. We are very close. We don't talk to the outside world. In terms of blockchain, the government really they realize the potential of blockchain technology. They don't want to be left behind to like Western countries. The challenge is that the regulators, they don't know how to regulate the exchanges. And we also have to, realize that China is a currency controlled country. So all the currencies going out or going into China are highly regulated. So token cryptocurrency is a way to transfer values to out of China. So that's something we really concerned. So if you talk to regulators, their default reaction is that this is illegal. They don't really want to look at how the token economy will become in the future. From their position, from their best interest point, if they cannot say it's okay. If they cannot even say it's worth of trying, right? They have to maintain their position. They have to speak for the government. So I think it's really natural to hear them to say something really unfriendly to token economy, to like ICOs, to exchanges. But in the long run, I think those leaders, they are going to be more open. They are going to try it out and control them in maybe a sandbox. And then we are not going to we're going to invest a lot in blockchain. So I'm really optimistic about China being the one of those leading countries in crypto development or blockchain development. It just needs to be controlled somehow, in a way that regulators, they feel comfortable.
Right.
I did read that China's going to be spending about $400 million this year on blockchain projects. And I've read there's a couple of them like Matrix and a few other ones that have specific government contracts with China, which is pretty fascinating. I think that the United States has taken the opposite approach. They are pushing a lot of innovative companies overseas to Singapore, to Thailand, to Maldives, to Cayman and stuff like that, because we're just unclear with our regulations. And I think that China, although they've taken a hard stance, they're still embracing it in a way that the U.S. is not.
Yeah, last night I think I read a news that there is going to be a blockchain park somewhere open in Hangzhou, and
That's awesome.
There will be like 10 billion RMB invested into this park, and 30% of the fund are from the government.
Now, we talked about China regulations, U.S. regulations, them wanting to control it. At the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to, is them wanting to control it. And so then we can try and say, okay, well, money they want to control, like you said, in China they control the currency, but this is technology. But I kind of believe that the technology creating this token economy is going to be something they can't control, but they're going to try. So they've already talked about all these regulations, ways they can regulate it. And so obviously we talked about, exchanges having AML, anti-money laundering, KYC, know your customer. We've seen things where now even in the US, they want to have a blacklist of addresses that you can't do business with. So there's all types of things coming down where they're going to try and just keep controlling it more and more. But the decentralized exchange works exactly against that, right? Where you talked about it needs to have an anonymous layer. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're not the right person to ask this question, but I'm still curious. Running a decentralized exchange is going to be kind of going against all those rules and regulations that will probably be coming. Mm-hmm. How do you see that war taking place? Now, you're just providing the protocol, so you're not really in the war. You're just supplying the weapons for the war. But how do you see that playing out? I mean, we need the DEX, but regulations are going to prevent it.
Well, first of all, I think by controlling, there are a lot of ways. In China, I think the major way to control a lot of stuff is controlling the people, right? If you are physically in China, and I think you feel the pressure. Decentralized exchange, we don't take care of, we don't involve fiat money, so that makes us less sensitive to being regulated. I even said this in public, that I said, there's no way you can control Bitcoin payment, one-way payment. If I transfer like 1 Bitcoin to you, there's no way, there's no need you should control that, right? And if you transfer some ether to me, there's no way to control that. It's not necessary. And this actually forms, these two transactions actually forms a trade, right? So decentralized exchange just make these two trades happen, simultaneously, atomically. So in nature there's no difference between like one-way transfer and like a circular way of trading. So my suggestion to the government, to the regulation is that you only control when physical asset or fiat money turn into crypto, and when crypto turn into like a physical asset or fiat money. That's the part that you want to control. As long as you control that part, I think you just let go the other crypto to crypto trading, right? So that's much easier. Otherwise, this really hard to monitor every single transaction and make judgment whether this is a trade or this is just a transfer, normal transfer.
It's like they'd spend more money tracking down, crypto to crypto trades than they would even on the taxes that you're going to even exude from a Bitcoin to Ethereum transfer or something like that. For me, that I think the same way. Crypto to fiat, fiat to crypto. It's the thing that makes the most sense, and anything else should be just a normal exchange of goods.
But the government controls commerce, so they always want to be involved in the middle of commerce and exchange. So it's interesting how it's going to play out. I have one more question. I don't know what Jacob has left, but I just have one question, and that was, how long do you think it'll be until we see a DEX that's really competitive with central exchanges? I mean, there's a lot of problems there, from the user interface to the liquidity, but do you think this is something we'll see by the end of this year, or is it still a couple years out? Or
well, if EOS turn to be a really successful blockchain technology, then I think a couple of protocols like Loopring is going to be deployed on top of EOS. And then with the performance that EOS claim to provide, maybe we can see a really competitive product built on top of these type of decentralized exchange protocols. And then we can compete with the centralized ones. But if the performance of underlying blockchain is still like 10, 50 transactions per second, there's no way we can compete.
So then your answer is depending on when we get a blockchain that's fast enough, and you don't want to guess when that's going to be.
So I'm looking forward to two things. One is the EOS. The second one is the Ethereum scalability. The sharding solution. So we will see whether that will really scale out or not. But from a protocols level, it's just like if you look at the HTTP2, it really it didn't change a lot. But right now we can watch like HT movies. It's not because HTTP protocol is changed, is good, is becoming better, but it's because the underlying connection is, the bandwidth is much better, right? So given the blockchain performance improvement, I think a lot of DEX protocols, they are going to just provide a much better building block for decentralized exchange in the future.
Yeah. Did you read the EOS isn't going to be its own blockchain? Have you been following that saga?
EOS, I read their white paper again, I think 2 days ago. I think the major improvement is still the, I wouldn't say it's improvement. The major difference between EOS and Ethereum is that they use a very different consensus algorithm. The Byzantine tolerant plus DPoS. I think that's the only difference, I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I got. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. I know we kind of went maybe a little long, but great to hear from you. Again, we're super interested in the whole decentralized exchange space.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
Sorry, man. So just in your own words, just as simply as you can, for our viewers, what gives you guys the competitive advantage as a protocol over like KNC, 0x, even AirSwap, which is a peer-to-peer protocol layer? What's your competitive advantage, just kind of simplified, so that people can, if they take anything away from this, they know that, you know, Loopring does this better than anybody?
I think our advantage is the design of the protocol is superior to all the existing ones that I know of. It's more fundamental than Kyber, because Kyber you don't have the you don't submit orders, you just buy from dealers, right? It's more generalized than 0x. You can do everything 0x offers, but with a lot more flexibilities. So in general, design is much better.
Awesome, man. So when can we expect some like relayers and some big news coming out? Like what's your next big thing on the roadmap? Are you guys going to be at Consensus? Because we're both going to be there.
Oh yeah, I will. May
14th.
14. Oh yeah, I will be there. We are going to release our web-based wallet so that people can use the wallet to trade, to submit orders to trade this month.
Now I did check out your demo wallet. It looks good. It does look like you're building a DEX in there. Is that?
Yeah.
So you're kind of building a decentralized exchange?
Yeah, we don't call it a decentralized exchange. We call them the wallet that you can trade, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but basically
it just says DEX. It just says DEX on the website. So that's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
No, it looks good, man. I like the UX. It's clean, very easy to see. Still not ready for launch yet. We still need to work on the UI. Well, I'm just looking at it. It looks pretty good though. So if you guys want to check out the demo of the Loopring wallet, it's loopring.io, and you just click on demo, and then we're going to be seeing a new website launch soon, and then anything else besides the wallet, which is looking good so far.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So that's it. That's the info. Again, Daniel, thanks so much for taking the time. We'll hopefully see you in New York next month. And everyone check out Loopring. It's a really cool project.
When we get to New York, I'll buy you a drink. Appreciate your time, man.
Great. See you guys.